Hi, Martin. Welcome to episode 83, 84. Where are we?
I don't know.
It's been a long.
Before we go live.
We should do, but yeah, it's been a while. We've been very busy. Both of us, I know, have been very busy. I went to America to see my sister in Connecticut. We went skiing.
Not really busy though, is it?
Well, it was.
That's putting your private life in front of illuminating rounds, isn't it? Really.
It is. But at the same time, skiing is very, very difficult. If you've never skied before, that was.
I have, yeah.
You have, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I like skiing.
Skiing has the problem of you get so tired you just can't turn anymore. But the less you turn, the faster you go, and the harder it becomes to turn. It's a very quick loop to do that. But yeah, so that was that. Got back home. Daughter has gone to hospital for suspected meningitis, so I am there every day. She is okay. We were thinking she's going to come out today. Probably isn't, but she has made a big recovery from. The tricky thing is she was basically just sleeping all the time, and that's a challenge because it means that you've got to spot the difference between a normal teenager and someone who's potentially very, very ill. that's quite tricky, but she's a lot better, and she's doing good, and then ready to go off to the big tournament as well. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Yeah, just my dreams of the life I wanted have been defeated, and I'm finally acknowledging that. Abused by the demands of my family, but so everything's just normal, pretty good, really. So I'm not going to tournament, unfortunately, but it's partly a good thing. I've got my daughter staying with me for the month, so
yeah, it's good. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about, we've got new patrons is the first thing. Many thanks for all your support, guys. We've got David Van Can, we've got Douglas Grant, Leslie, we've got Jonathan Plott, Nelson Asada, and David Giacalone. Thank you very much, guys, for all your support. Apologies if I've pronounced your names incorrectly. Obviously, patronage, number one, supports us and gets you into the tournaments and things like that. It also gives you the better graphics on the ASL scenario archive. Gives you access to the Discord server. We will go live again on. I'd imagine we'll probably play the second half of the scenario that you're going to see the first half of, probably next Tuesday. GMT time, probably around 10:30. So if you want to in the morning, so if you want to pop onto the scenario archive, the Discord scenario archive there to listen to us play and kibitz away, that would be great. We'll happily have you there. It's quite exciting. We've got an exciting second half of the scenario to look at.
Yes, yeah.
We're going to look at the first half of the scenario that we played, which Martin, you can talk about in a second. We're going to talk about bucket lists as well of scenarios. And we're going to talk about potentially, you had an interesting idea, and you haven't explored this very much, but I'm going to push you on this, an idea about how to shorten the rulebook vastly. And you've forgotten already, but you made a comment about like a bit about the rules that don't really get used very much, and whether I think I interpreted it as whether you were saying, should they even be in the rulebook or not, or maybe you weren't saying that, but.
Sure, I will say. Well, I was sort of posing the question: do they add anything to the game?
Yeah.
If literally, you can't think of anybody that's ever used them.
Yeah. And there is. I mean, I know Starter Kit is basically that version of the rules in a way, where you kind of strip it all out. But I do think that you could definitely have an abridged rulebook for full ASL, where it's effectively just like not the Pocket rulebook does a great job. Obviously not a pocket rulebook, but there could be like
complete, isn't it? It's complete. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you mean a version that you could read through more quickly, perhaps be quicker to find things, and that didn't have all of the unusual things in it. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, almost take out all the, not necessarily the exceptions, because some of the exceptions are quite important to the rule. But there's a whole bunch of rules that you just don't need to. Yeah, there's the stuff that we need to look up almost every time we play. And then there's the stuff like today, minefield clearance. Okay, we've got to go through that. Now, minefield clearance isn't something that should be in the, like kind of the core rule book, if you like. I'm not suggesting it should be an optional rule or anything like that. But I do think there's a scope for like a rules summary that might be 100 pages still, but would be just really quick to find stuff that you kind of look for all the time. So I don't know if you want to crack on with that, Martin, or we'll just.
No, I mean it was really wasn't my idea. I did sort of pose that idea of like, is the game better because of snowdrifts, for example?
Right.
When I've never had a snowdrift, I don't think you've ever had one that's not playing me, and I don't know. I'm not.
Right.
I haven't got like a strong opinion about it. I just thought it might be an interesting question.
Yeah, I do think
Right,
things like exactly that, vehicle dust, things like that. They felt like probably when the writers were writing these rules, they felt they were really important to convey this important thing. A lot of that kind of stuff could be an SSR, or could have been an extra rules pamphlet or something along with the scenario. I guess the flip side is that we don't necessarily want scenarios that we have to read an extra page of rules, and there is a bit of a trend, isn't there, for like packs to come out now with more rules and things like this.
Yeah.
Has the system done so well because it can encompass that and there are rules for it? Or is it a case of just saying those should have been SSRs? Because the danger is that you have different versions of the same rule, don't you? Oh, we played vehicle dust last week and it was done like this, and now it's done in a different way.
I suppose that the thing is, you don't need to read about vehicle dust until you're playing a scenario where there's likely to be vehicle dust, isn't it? I mean, I guess that's the thing, really. So it creates sort of, that every scenario has got a different sort of set of rules. It's a slightly different game, isn't it? And you can have some games that are quite, with night rules, for example, it's quite a considerably different game. I guess that's the reason that we have them.
Right. Yeah. And I can understand for things like night rules where it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
But there are a whole heap of things, and we're going to talk about bucket lists. We'll talk about it after we've gone through the scenario. A bucket list of things we'd like to do in scenarios that we probably haven't ever done. Certainly that I don't remember. Just kind of nice things to be able to check off, and that's quite cool. The tournament is underway. We've got you and I are both having to arrange our games, but there's a talk about it being an unbalanced scenario. Martin, any views on that?
There has been a complaint. I don't know, because I'm not playing my game for a couple of weeks, so I've not looked at the scenario in depth. But 2 games have finished, and there is a winner from each side. But I think the person that suggested that it was, I don't want to say which side is unbalanced, because obviously there are people still to play who may not have chosen sides. But the person who suggested it felt that like a competent player on one of those sides would struggle to be defeated. You'd struggle to defeat them.
Right.
So it'd be very interesting. I think when we actually we're going to see games against perhaps quite big mismatch of ability, and we're going to see matches against some very, very good players. So we can see some variety.
Yep.
It'll be interesting. We can see if that's true or not.
Right.
Of course on Raw, it slightly favours one side, but it's not dramatic.
Yeah.
So. And of course, the other argument, of course, is that selecting a side is a tournament skill, isn't it? So if you both want the same side, maybe you'd get the balance, and that sort of negotiation can go on. But it'd be very interesting when it's all done. We've shown them all. If people can tell us what they think.
Sure. Okay, that's absolutely true. What we'll see, we'll find out what happens, and we'll find out. Today's scenario is interesting from the perspective of it's one of the first times that one of the publishers has given away a free scenario as like a preview. And so that means that everybody can play this scenario for free. It's available. And we're going to look at Kids These Days from the Hazardous Movement. Chuck was very keen that we took a look at this one, so we are going to do that. Martin, do you want to? We'll put the scenario card up for people to have a look. But what do you want to talk through the scenario to start with, and what's going on there?
Yeah, it's a very long scenario because it's essentially almost 2 scenarios, isn't it? So the first is a British attacking into a village held by the Germans, 1944 in France. And then from turn 6, the Germans get a large number of reinforcements, and it's the Germans are attacking and the British are then sort of defending. So can people see the map at the moment?
They will do now. I'm just going to bring it up now, 2 seconds. Okay, so here's the map as we can see it. And you'll see that you start hip with everything.
Yep, that's right.
Start on there. Okay. So not for the first time. No Germans on the map.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say not for the last time. No Germans on the map in this
Yes.
in this scenario.
Yeah. But there are 6 German squads there,
6,
658s.
yeah,
There's a 75L anti-tank gun, and there are 4 anti-tank mine factors
right,
out there somewhere,
exactly.
and some trenches, which remain hip as though it's night.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also got 2 fortified building locations which have to be placed in, I think, stone buildings in the village there.
That's right.
And those are used to define who currently controls the village.
Right.
If you control both of those 2, then you control the village.
Yeah, that's quite a nice little idea, isn't it? So I don't necessarily know which ones I have to control.
Yeah.
And you've got to get 40 points. I'm gonna. You could get 15 points by stopping me getting the village by turn 6.
Yeah.
You can get another 15 points if you take the village back off me, and you get exit victory points off the left hand side.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a whole heap of stuff on, as we can
Yeah.
see at some point.
That's right. So I mean, really, that's for next week, isn't it? But
That's right.
Coming on. There's 3 Tigers. There's 3 armored cars that can each carry a squad, and stuff like that. Then there's assault engineers. There's heavy machine guns. All sorts of stuff. OBA.
Yeah.
But this sort of second part of this scenario, both sides have OBA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the first challenge really for you is to decide if you're going to reveal anything, and you've got to figure out. You can obviously set up to the right of this big green line here, just with 6 squads, and I've got 15 squads coming on, so this shouldn't be too difficult with the 3 tanks to come on. But your anti-tank gun, 76 gun, it's 76, 75, something like that. It's a big.
Yeah. It's proper. Yes. It's a proper anti-tank gun,
It's big. So basically the start of it is really to figure out, are you going to reveal anything to stop me getting concealment? And you decide to reveal some guys here. And interestingly, so this is 2 little rules checks we had to check here. One was because you don't get any concealment counters, when you reveal hip, they will come unconcealed. That's the first thing. And you don't have to show me a real unit here. You just have to show me a concealment counter to deny hip, or deny my concealment. So at this point, this is actually a reasonably effective way of trying to prevent a load of concealment. Now, I was surprised you did this. I thought that basically you would be able to pick off my concealment whenever you wanted to anyway. And me having concealment at this point isn't that useful. And what this does do is gives me a position where I'm going to focus some of my fire, especially my mortars. So I was kind of pleased that you did this. But
I think, but if I wanted to do that, I think I should have placed an unvaluable unit somewhere to do this, rather than to kind of give away a key position.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
To be honest, I wasn't. Yeah, I should have been thinking about that when I was setting up, and I didn't really.
Yeah, it is interesting. So there's a choice about whether you just protect that village, or whether you do some kind of like protection on the flanks. And it was quite interesting because your setup actually caused me quite a lot of problems, I think, in terms of as always you'll catch me out with almost everything. But the trenches is obviously a great position to defend, but quite an important pin here, as we'll see. So first thing I do, and this is crazy, this is because in the last probably 2 or 3 games I probably haven't played against the Germans quick enough or enough times, and forget that you've got Panzerfausts. Run my tank up, think, okay, well, this is the right thing to do. You've got a pinned guy, you've got no anti-tank assets. Okay, I'll get those machine guns in, go for the thing, and then you go for a Panzerfaust and roll a 6, and because you're pinned, you break. And that's pretty significant. So you've lost there the squad and the medium machine gun, which is pretty grim. So straight away trying to take advantage of this, run into another guy. Oh, for goodness sake. So there's
But it's only a single man counter, so he doesn't get his pants first. Yeah.
I get lucky in that instance though, because that's not. We should mention the hedges of bocage here in this.
Yeah.
So now I commit another tank down here.
Yeah.
Running the guys down into this woods. Just kind of run across really and this is just the, push as quick as we can to get into the village. And clearly you are going to catch me on some line of sights here, but trying to be careful with that 9-2. But we know what his destiny is going to be. You bring another squad up here. This is nice. Completely fooled me. Now I was surprised you didn't take the shot here against these guys. It's one of these guys as they were running in. So why did you wait rather than take that?
So I was trying to maximise the chance of a Panzerfaust and a shot.
Right.
So if I'd have fired the squad and it had cowered, for example, or if I fired the squad and the light machine gun, I wouldn't be able to fire a Panzerfaust.
Right.
So I thought, yeah. I mean, and also, of course, you moved. You didn't move as a stack.
Right.
So
right.
I'm just going to limit to what I can affect. Whereas now I can take a shot with.
Yeah.
And potentially affect the entire stack.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, you have
a
good result here. So bunch of broken guys. My sniper. Now the problem here is with so few units revealed. Now here's a question we kind of talked about here. The ability to reveal a unit at any time is very problematic for things like this, where you have a sniper placement and a sniper is going to do a 1 damage, and I roll the dice. At this point, is there a race between me trying to find the unit that my sniper's going to hit, or you deciding to reveal a different unit?
Yeah.
This is a little bit problematic, and you were very gentlemanly and said you didn't want to reveal anything at this point. So I think we decided.
Well, I chose not to. Yeah, I did choose not to. Yeah.
But I think there could be an argument to be made that you could have definitely, before I rolled the dice. I think the fairest thing to do would be to choose to say, okay, you're going to reveal something now before I roll. But once I've rolled, you then reveal something. I don't know. That feels a little bit gamey, but by the rules, I think that's okay.
That's right. Yeah.
So kills.
In a way, I was because that position's so compromised. I'm not going to be moving back to that. It's actually a trench where that leader is. I'm not going to be moving back there to rally.
Right.
So losing the 8-0 leader, I thought was not such a terrible. It was probably the best, rather than having a squad break. Perhaps.
Right. Yeah, you've got so few squads, haven't you? You've got 6 squads
6.
only. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now really we're down to 5 already.
Right. Exactly. So these guys will die for failure to rout.
I missed the Panzer. I didn't get the Panzerfaust.
That's right. Yeah. So you do get Panzerfaust though in your prep fire?
In my turn, yeah.
And then it's pretty much your turn over. I mean, this is so when we looked at this scenario, I think we were put off from it because it was such a big scenario. It's 11 turns, and 11 turns feels like a very long day's scenario. And yet this is not an 11 turn scenario in terms of how long it's going to take to play. It's going to be much, much quicker, because you're going to start 6 squads. You're going to probably be down to, I would guess, about 2 or 3 at the best case after six turns. And then, it's going to scale back up again, but your turns certainly go very, very quickly here, don't they?
Yeah.
So you retreat your full squad, and this gives me a problem. You've got a full squad next to my tank. I know that you are thinking about, coming in either for close combat or Panzerfaust.
Or close combat with the anti-tank magnetic mines and things like that, but it's still dangerous moving there.
Yeah, and as we find, then you break here with this one.
And I think, so on reflection, having pretty much all of my machine guns in that woods was a mistake. I mean, I was hoping to have the fire lanes, causing you real headaches, but it would be nice to have had them at the very end of this 6 turns.
Yeah. So moving on, we can see you've got some defensive fire against my Piat guys, who you discover. And you break those guys, but that kind of gives me a little bit of a window to run through the middle here. And bear in mind, I still don't know which of the 2 stone locations are.
It could be any of them, couldn't it?
And I guess there's an argument to be made that you could. Can you fortify a steeple location as well? I'm not sure if you can fortify a steeple location.
I'm not sure. I mean, normally you can do an upstairs location, can't you?
Right. So you know, you could have done something sneaky like that, perhaps.
Yeah. I think 2 in the same hex might not be a terrible idea.
Right, and just really try and pack that up.
Mm.
Yeah, the thing about that is, because obviously I don't necessarily know, and either I start searching, if I walk into it, I might find out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point now, I think you've got, is it 2 squads remaining that to be found, and
3. There's 3 still concealed, still hip.
Okay, right.
But I've lost all my support weapons.
Yes.
And the weaker leader. I've also still got the anti-tank gun somewhere.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll end up finding that fairly quickly. Right. Okay. So we have
So I'm really thinking about trying to get back into, all that's on my mind is trying to get back into my fortified building locations at the moment, which are empty. Yeah.
Exactly. So you jump into close. So you revealed a guy. You jump into close combat. This is quite a nice little move here, but risky. It is risky.
Yeah, it was a mistake. I think in hindsight, I'd have been much better retreating.
But you get the ambush here. You fail the thing. Well, I fail mine. Now you didn't withdraw here. I thought you should have withdrawn.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the right thing to do, having won the ambush.
But then there was no point in advancing in the first place, was there?
Well, I don't know, because you've got the concealment. So you've got the concealment, you've got the ambush chance, and you're higher than 1-to-1. So you're going to be 1-to-1 against me. So I think that's where your advantage is, and then you go back into your stone building for the second part kind of thing. For me to then have to try and kick you out of the stone building, and for all I know, that might be the fortified location.
That's true.
That's what's going on there. So tank's going to swing around. Now here's the concern. I need to get the tanks into position, but I also am petrified of the anti-tank gun just taking out a couple more of these tanks. So I decided to kind of just hold off. You reveal your guy there. I mean, this is a shame. You're 6 down 3 shot here, and I get away with it. But you break a mortar, and you kill him on the subsequent
the next
shot.
move. Yeah.
But that gives me again another opening, and then this is nice. So then you reveal the anti-tank gun here.
And it's a bore-sighted location.
Right. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Now, I'm looking at this guy and thinking this is it's a pretty grim position for me to be caught in. But at the same time, my tanks are miles away.
Yeah.
But you get your whatever it is down 5 shot or something.
It was a critical hit, I think.
Yeah. And so now, my tactics here, which may not be right, but it's the thing. Okay, I've got to take the advantage. I can't just let you sort of sit back and have this gun. Now I could have just ignored it, I think, and that would be one thing. I decide that I'm actually going to try and attack it, and it's a very, very good move here. You've got a hidden guy here.
Yeah.
And I
ineffective shot, but
I get away with it really. Now here's the risky one. So I know I'm going to hit a 6 flat here, but I'm looking at this and thinking, 9 and 10 morale for these guys. This should be doable, really.
See, did you need to move them all in together?
Well, okay, so my thought was I wanted them to take, if they wouldn't take a morale check, I wanted them to take it together because of the 9-2.
Right, because of the 9-2 leader.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
You get a decent shot.
And I think did you actually pin the leader or break it?
No, it's okay. So the leader pinned. Yeah, the leader pinned. Although I've got the leader as broken, but I think the leader, because I think we got this a little bit wrong because I seem to remember the leader was the one that pinned and the other guys broke. I think that's
right.
Cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what
happened.
happened.
But we then forget to route them, so that you'll see there's something that kind of happens here. So I've grabbed your medium machine gun up here. I've taken a few prisoners. And now
I always think of it as a six flat like that, moving into the hex 05. I always think of that as walking into minefields.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. So we forget the route, but I route them back here. This guy, the 9-2 now should be broken because I think he was pinned, so he would have now been broken.
I think you do break him in a minute, don't you?
Well, in a different way. in a different way.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we get the melee going in.
Hmm.
We do the close combat.
Hmm.
And then we get some profiles. Now I forget to rally. We forget the rally phase. We just completely forget. I think you just because you have so few units, you're like, right, okay, we're off, and I completely forgot it as well.
Straight to prep fire. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do a bit of prep fire. You do a bit of movement.
That pin was very significant in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly that. So yeah, this is tricky for you. You have the awkwardness of you're going to take the shot, or you're going to wait for the final fire. And the final fire is a 30 flat coming back at you.
Yeah.
It's pretty grim. So you fail the ELR, 2 half squads.
But I was also in a trench, so it was difficult to move out without taking that shot. Yeah.
Then we remember the rally action. So we do the rally action from the same turn. I double six my leader. So he's at the end there. Now I think this was you kind of you split these into two and went different locations. But it's not.
I think it's academic, really.
Yeah.
They split into two because they ELR'd and they got underlined.
Yeah, but in terms of like the hexes that they go to.
So might just give you a little bit more to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was more or less academic, I thought.
Yeah, I get heat of battle and self rally, or a leader generation here. And so we're going to pull around and just mop up these guys here. Thought about you may have had a turn around and had a shot there. I wasn't sure if you were going to swing.
I was trying to get the that's pinned in M10 out, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Now my guys here have opportunity fire because they were CX, so they want to drop that CX and get the
nice move. Yeah.
Get the 4 flat. Well, yeah. You see now, it comes with some risks, doesn't it? He's got to survive that fire phase. Your fire phase.
That's true.
So you were a little bit unlucky on your fire, but now my tanks are free to move. And I say that, and then of course we get we find some minefields. So there's a minefield in there.
M14.
But I would survive it, but now I decide to stop. You fire at the opportunity fired guys and break them. A little bit of ineffective fire comes back. And so we have some advances. I
think we forgot to bring your reinforcements on this one.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we'll catch those reinforcements up in a second. And you pull back.
Yep.
We have a little bit of ineffective manoeuvring, a bit of firing. Yeah, you have to pull into the tanks.
Retrospectively, I don't know. Perhaps it wasn't the right. It certainly didn't work out.
That's true.
But,
so on come the reinforcements. So this is the Jeep with the gun that
the radio, the gun radio,
the radio guys. Now these guys, in theory, the vehicles are recalled as soon as they're empty. So we just take those guys off straight away. No need to be too worried. And now it's just trying to mop up these two locations here. These are the last two squads I think that you've got on the board now. So we jump in. There's going to be.
I'm feeling pretty helpless by now, I think.
Yeah, you. Wasn't a great feeling, I think, for you.
No.
So encircling fire shots to help them a little bit easier to break and surrender. And your guys, you were very unlucky. So your leader pinned, and you have to choose whether you're going to rout him upstairs or leave him downstairs.
Had he not, there was a reasonable chance of him rallying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a chance of them rallying, which is why I rout them up the stairs. But
no, you're absolutely right. It's
so you've got the 15 points now.
Well, you don't get the 15 points.
I don't get the 15 points. Yeah, that's right. But strong sense of being swarmed. I think we have to move that stack back.
That's it. Yeah, because we missed the bocage.
The hedges, the bocage.
But we kind of mop up those guys. No more surrendering. So no quarters.
I couldn't help feeling that it would have been nice if this was a turn later, because you would have not had that whole turn to sort of position yourself ready for the counter attack.
Exactly that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So now basically I have a whole turn with
Get
you
yourself
having
in position.
find another minefield.
Yeah.
That tank.
I think you find several.
I do. I do find some more
Yeah.
minefields.
You actually find them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you find the half track finds one here.
Yeah. No damage.
No damage there. Half track finds one here.
I suppose it slows, it disrupts where you may have intended to go, I suppose.
Yeah. And then during the recall, this this vehicle is destroyed as part of the recall there. But there's no problems. There's no machine guns on those things. It's not really.
Yeah.
There's no CVP or anything. So then it's just a case of getting all my concealment done, and that's where we are leaving it. So basically, the position is right now. You have to come on. You've got, like you say, three Tigers. You've got a whole heap of guys.
3 half tracks with capable of carrying a squad and a half each.
Yep. You've got
a Stug thingy with a -2 leader, but that doesn't come on until the following turn.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've got to get 40 points. So 15 points for capturing this building.
Yeah.
And then 25 off. So I'm assuming you'll capture the building, and then 25 points off. So in theory, getting your 3 Tigers and your Stug off the board and capturing the building will absolutely do it.
It did occur to me that I couldn't really be in a worse position at the moment than I am in, having lost everything, But having said that, I guess you're not in an optimum position, are you? You're kind of like rushing to get into place to repel me, and you did lose 3 squads.
Yes,
I suppose, which is not inconsequential. And most of the tanks are set on mines, nervous of moving, which is interesting, isn't it?
They are.
Again, makes you think twice about moving them to where you might have wanted them.
And I don't think, to be fair, they can stand up against Tigers either. That's the other thing.
No. But you've now got an extra 2. You've got 5 of them, haven't you?
That's right.
Yeah. But they're.
Well, 4 left.
Yeah. Why you got 4 left?
Because
I got one, because I Panzerfast one. That's true. So it's 3 squads and a Sherman down. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's not inconsequential.
No. So you've got 5 turns left, and we're going to pick this up next episode to find out what happens here.
6 turns. I think I've got 6 turns.
So okay, you got your 6th turn as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of time.
But essentially, it's about getting off the board, isn't it?
Yep.
With the possibility of a bonus 15 points.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think you can get? 40 points off seems like a very difficult ask.
Sure. Yeah. But I think taking that building looks quite difficult.
Yeah.
It's far better defended than when you were attacking it.
Yes. That's true.
So it's going to be. But it'll be. I think it'll be challenging.
All right.
Let's put it that way. I think it's going to be a challenge, but I'm all up for the challenge.
So kids these days, you can download it from the Hasmo website. It's for free. It's part of the first Hasmo pack. If you already have that, don't be put off by its size. I don't think it's more than what I would consider to be a medium-sized scenario, even though it looks like it's going to be a lot longer.
And actually, it lends itself very well to playing as 2 scenarios. On 2 sessions, doesn't it? Because we could have done this in a couple of hours and then come back to the second half, which is what we are doing.
So if you played this one, that's great, and if you want to let us know how it went, that'd be even better. Robbie's doing a video for us, and we're going to put it in before the next one, which is basically talking about the tank battle. So it's going to talk about the Tigers versus the Shermans here. And what's going on. So we haven't forgotten about you, Rob. Don't worry. There's no spoilers. We have no tank-on-tank combat just yet. So that's going to be that. But it's been fun. It's been enjoyable. And probably more enjoyable for me than you. But okay, all right. So let's move on from that for now. We'll get back to that in a week or so's time. Winter Offensive pack. So we've picked up in the last, thanks to my trip and back to the States and everything, managed to pick up the Winter Offensive packs and the new journal. Now, you haven't got your copy of the journal yet, so we won't talk about Journal 13, but everything you wanted it to be fair. Amazing, loads and loads of scenarios, lots of information. We'll talk about that. With the journal, there's no point in giving a review of the journal. I think every ASL player I would imagine will be buying. I don't think if
I
you're
thought so.
if you have disposable income as an ASL player, I
Yeah.
think you would be buying the journal. If there was only a digital version of it though, would you be prepared to only buy the digital version as opposed to the hard copy version?
I think a lot of people would. I quite like the having the paper version.
Yeah.
It feels like an event.
Yeah.
You know, getting it. You know, you can go and read it in the bath or whatever, can't
Yeah.
you? Whatever.
I
Yeah.
I literally lived the dream. So I got to the States to see my sister, and she was working for a day. So I turned up, saw her in the evening. She had to go to work. Kids were at school. Her kids at school. So I had the whole day in a town I don't know, like on my own. So I was given the journal, and I pointed into a coffee shop. There's a coffee shop there. Like I just sat there, like with no one was going to interrupt me. Just sat there and read the journal, watched the world go by. That was amazing. I loved it.
I love Dave. You travel halfway across the world, and your sister's at work, so you're not going to see her. You spent the whole day reading the ASL journal.
Lived the dream.
You could have done it at home.
Living the dream. It was amazing. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to say this 1,000 times. I still miss the fact that the scenarios are not in the magazine. But I do appreciate that actually when it comes to setting them up and everything, it's a lot easier to have them as a card than it is to try and fold open your journal and put all the counters out and everything. I love the pocket scenarios. We'll talk about this more later on when you get yours. My only comments about the pocket scenarios is I wish they'd have put the board numbers, maybe they have and I haven't spotted it, or how to set the board up, because playing by Vassal, it's almost impossible to set these maps up.
So I kind of assumed that those boards were unique, especially designed for the scenario. But you think they are geo boards?
I could be completely wrong here, but the reason why I think they're geo boards is because the coordinates don't start with A's and B's.
Well, that makes sense.
But it might be that there's a whole heap of overlays on top of them,
Yeah.
or terrain changes.
So in fact, so if we had a kind of description of how to set it up, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Just this is board blank.
Yeah.
Hex is D to F or whatever it is that's in play. Yeah.
And I don't doubt that someone, if it hasn't been done already, I don't doubt that people will do that, because there is a requirement.
Working on it, no doubt about
and
that.
this goes back to like when we try to figure out what to play today, because we are kind of hot on the heels of the release of the bonus pack 14 and to somewhat extent the journal. We couldn't really play anything from the journal because you hadn't got your copy of the journal yet. We looked for the bonus pack scenarios, and the Vassal boards hadn't caught up quite yet. I think they're available now, 89 and 90. So we couldn't play anything on there, and so this is why we picked this, and we'll play a scenario from the Winter Offensive pack next time. But looking at the scenarios from here, just very briefly, and funny enough, the one that we were actually going to play was Hell's Headache.
I really fancied that.
Yeah, and I think you said a really nice thing. You said basically this is the kind of scenario that you look at, and this is exactly what you look for in terms of. It was tanks on both sides. It was 6 turns, 1 board, infantry, German, Russian. Looked quite nice, didn't it? New ball to play on.
Gun.
Exactly that. And so
the
that
main components
exactly
of a nice scenario. Yeah.
Exactly. Reinforcements
I
as
think it's
well.
another counter-attack one, isn't it? You've got a counter-attacking force, it looks like.
Yeah, exactly, with guys coming on. So this is definitely one I think that we are going to look forward to playing, and looks interesting. I mean, definitely. Number 44, Little Village. Now this is the one with the fortifications that you can buy and you add on. Now, I mean, I don't know. I don't really like shopping at the best of times. I don't like fortifications. So shopping for fortifications, I'm not sure is my favourite thing. I think you enjoy this more, don't you? But do you enjoy shopping for fortifications?
My only problem with shopping is I hate the idea that I will buy the wrong thing and I've essentially lost the scenario before it starts. Do you know, if you don't manage to kind of like get that sort of thing right? But I don't mind. I quite like the idea of it. Like it's a part of setting it up. So I suppose here it's defensive, isn't it? So you're thinking about how your overall defensive plan and how you use those resources to buy. I think it's okay. Okay.
It's interesting to see that what the value of what's the exchange rate for things like one wire counter is the equivalent to 3 concealment counters and things like that, and is that is that a good rate of return or a bad rate of return?
Yeah.
And I wonder
It
whether
obviously depends on the scenario a little bit, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
an anti-tank ditch is the most expensive thing there, and I can imagine situations where an anti-tank ditch wouldn't be particularly useful.
Right.
But here, it's presumably in the scenario it's quite valuable, and uses up a lot of those points.
and this just goes back to a little bit like if this was in the rules as a fortification value, wouldn't that be a nicer thing in a way to have this type of thing as a core rule where scenarios could automatically just include a certain number of points, and then we wouldn't have to have this kind of shopping list, chart that we'd have
suppose so. I suppose so. I mean, isn't there? There is. I mean, there is sort of, isn't there, in the campaign games?
for DYO as well. There's that kind of stuff.
DYO, there is, yeah, exactly.
But they're different
I think
each
the thing
time.
about this, though, is this is a very specific scenario where, who knows, maybe the fortified buildings are just the thing you're going to need in this scenario.
Right.
So you'd have to make it more expensive, perhaps.
Yeah,
know.
that's fair. That's a fair comment. But anyway, it looks interesting, doesn't it? It's a nice opportunity to play around both new boards. We should talk about the new boards while we've got a second. So boards 89 and 90. Any thoughts about these boards?
Right, 89 reminds me, isn't there a starter kit board which is a little not as dense as this? There's like a strung out village along a road.
Yeah, I think
and it kind of reminded me a bit of that, because it's flat, but both of them are sort of more or less flat, and apart from the gully.
Yeah.
But nice dense little village between the roads there.
Yeah, it looks interesting, doesn't it? And then board 90, like just a grain fields, and I mean nice and simple, and I can imagine that being good fun for sort of some tank battles and stuff as well. You could
especially in the when the grain's not out of season.
Yeah,
it's essentially an open board, isn't it, with a gully? Yeah,
it's nice. Yeah. So I mean, always looks like nice. I think 89 is definitely something that you'd remember playing on a lot more than board 90. 90 looks like a fairly generic open board, but definitely interesting from the gully point of view. The gully running all the way along that that kind of village is quite an interesting thing, isn't it? Either attacking down that gully and trying to kind of circumvent the village, or do you go through it? So it's quite interesting there. And then the final scenario, better than nothing. Again, one board scenario, board 90. We're going to see a couple of Stugs up against the 76M, the Russian kind of anti-tank, self-propelled gun. I'm not sure if it counts as a tank, and is that a couple of Shermans? Is that the M1 42? Is that? But yeah, looks a little bit more. Looks a bit more kind of straightforward, I would say. 9 squads against 16 squads, so it's quite an overwhelming Russian attack coming on. Board 90. So there's not a lot of defence there for the defending Germans.
I do quite like how all three scenarios are played on the boards that come with the pack. That's quite nice. Exactly.
Yeah, that is nice. Nice. So we will definitely play. I think we're going to play Hell's Headache next, and once we've finished off Kids These Days. Excited to play the new scenarios as well from that. So that's something to look forward to.
Yes. Yeah.
Last thing to talk about. We talked about bucket list items for ASL.
Right. Yeah.
So you were going to give us some bucket list items. So we're going to do one at a time. What's the things that you want to, and have you achieved any of these items?
Okay, so the first one I definitely haven't achieved, and this is one of the things I was thinking about actually when I mentioned the idea of is it valuable in the rules or not? But a unit can jump into a water obstacle from off a cliff or an upper level of a building. I mean, there's all sorts of rules about it. It's not straightforward, but you can. I've never done it.
Yep.
And in fact, I think if it's off a building, it has to be that there's less than the width of a counter, which you go looking at the geo boards, you'll be hard pushed to find a building that close to water. But the rule is there, and I did think it was single man count, but I think it's any unit.
Yeah, and you know what? So I want to hear if anyone's done any of these things with a little story. Let us know about this, because we want to hear these little stories about people doing this, because these are genuinely, bucket list stuff to be done.
Yeah.
So my one, which has definitely been done against me, and I've told this story before about J.R. Tracy playing a blinding game against me, but I've never done it against anybody specifically, and that's capturing a tank. And specifically by that, I mean, kicking the crew out of that tank, eliminating the crew somehow, and then getting in that tank and doing something useful with it. That's what's amazing about ASL. That's the story that you're going to remember for the weekend, isn't it? It's an amazing thing to do. I've never done it, so I'm hoping at some point I will be able to do it. I know we've played scenarios where there's been an uncontrolled or unowned tank in the middle that we can capture and do something with. And I know we've done that, but I don't remember ever kicking you out of a tank and jumping in it. So that's what I'm looking for. Okay, your next one.
Am I Harry Carey?
No, you're not. You are scaling a building. Is your next one?
Scaling a building. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have scaled buildings, but scaling buildings only is an SS. It's only by SSR. The ability to climb, which is like cliffs and things, is a normal ability, I think, of an infantry unit. But scaling a building isn't. And I think that's. I think I've done it once. So I'm playing against Ryan Dukeman at the moment, and in it he can scale buildings, but it's early in the scenario, so obviously I don't know whether he'll carry on and he'll do that or not. But it's certainly available to him.
Yeah.
Only done it once, I think, and it was a scaled down a building.
I remember this. We told this story lots of times, but you literally scaled out. I think up or down. I can't remember. Into fire. It was crazy, and I know you did it because you thought that's what you were supposed to do. And I think it was because of the idea of avoiding upper level encirclement or something, which was why they gave you the ability to scale to stop that happening.
Yeah.
But you just decided
my ASL career, wasn't it?
you became Spider-Man and just started doing it just for fun. It was incredible. But yeah, okay. So you have done that one, but scaling buildings is always fun. Yeah. So my second one was Harry Carey. Not a lot of people wish to commit Harry Carey, and I think we've got to take this in the perspective of the gaming sense. But I've never had an example where I've needed to, and I know the idea would be that you would be doing this to avoid victory points and things like that for capturing and stuff like that, which I suppose is somewhat historical from a Japanese perspective of avoiding capture. They can be Harry Carey. I've never done it. I don't feel particularly comfortable about doing it, but it seems like a bucket list item to do.
See, I think we did play a scenario where it was a thing, and one of us did it. It was obviously it was a Japanese scenario, and it was very specific. It seemed almost like the scenario had been designed with the idea in mind that you could use this rule.
Right.
Yeah. I got a feeling we did do it.
Okay.
But it would have been a very long time ago.
All right. Okay.
We need to do it again because we don't remember it.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember your number 3?
This is the graveyard.
This is graveyards. Go on.
Okay, right. To score a KIA against an enemy unit in a graveyard, just to save all the work that follows on.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's an interesting one, but I don't think I've ever done it either. But
no.
Yeah, or a close combat.
It's only 1 TEM, isn't it? It's it's doable, and you're in close combat, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Okay.
If you
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I was going to say, if you have shell holes created, it could save a lot of time.
It's a bit grim, isn't it?
It is.
Carrying a wounded SMC is something I have not done, and I know there's reasons why you might want to do it. And even in this scenario right now, I have a wounded SMC that might want to be. I don't see the value in doing it. I never quite understand it. But
what about driving a captured tank with 2 wounded single-man counters or something like that? I don't know. Is that?
It's on there, I'm sure, on the list somewhere. We'll do it. But so carrying an SMC wounded SMC, I know that he helps somehow because he gives them some movement points, and I think that's the idea.
He gives them the 2 movement factor bonus.
Right, and he counts as a 5 PP, I think.
But he's a 5 PP thing to carry. Yeah.
So he can move around a little bit quicker. All right.
Perhaps,
okay. Your number 4 around OBA.
Right. Okay. Right. So this is to cool down an OBA on the spotter himself.
Yeah. Deliberately
Deliberately,
Yeah.
deliberately, not accidentally.
Yeah,
Which just
yeah.
feels a little bit less noble and heroic, really, doesn't it?
It's happened to
But do
me.
you know what? I was in Normandy. In Normandy, we had a battlefield tour, and we were at this churchyard. We went to see. They talked to us about how the guys that had been there were killed, and they did precisely that. Well, one of the guys precisely did that. Suicidally brought the fire down on himself. Just but I have done it in squad leader. Now,
Right.
squad leader had very different rules for OBA, and like you could bring it down in different ways. And one of the things you could do, which pretty much guaranteed that it didn't, what's the word, stray,
Yep.
was to bring it down onto your actual location.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember the game I played, and I brought it down to my own location. It was swarms of Russians around this sort of these German guys, and obviously it killed all the German guys, including the spotter, and not the Russian hordes that were running around it.
Okay. Yeah, it seems very very thematic.
Yeah,
very thematic.
Very dramatic. Yeah, John Wayne-like film. Yeah.
Okay. Next one, shooting a plane down in dogfighting. I think that's something everybody wants to try.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, it feels like the plane is never the target, really, is it? In an ASL game, you want to be strafing or point attacking those units, or maybe a tank or something. The plane doesn't feel like the real target, so it always feels a bit like it's a bit of a sideshow, really. The dogfighting.
Yeah, actually, it's quite. I can't think of a time that I played when there've been planes on both sides. But also, you don't often have very many anti-tank assets that end up firing at the aircraft that are on the board. It's very often they're almost like they're invulnerable. They go around and they fire at things and they're effective or they're not. But it's interesting, isn't it?
Right.
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
The last one for me is create a hole in ice. And there are two ways to do it. In fact, there are collapsed ice counters.
There are.
Collecting dust in everybody's set. But you can do it with a high caliber. I think you need a KIA. OBA would be an obvious way to do it. You could have a whole pattern of them, couldn't you? But heavy vehicles as well, over 5 tons, you get the bridge collapse rules. Use the bridge collapse rules as you go over the ice. So create a collapsed ice hex.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's nice. So my one is, and we mentioned this briefly a little while ago, I think, trying to have the perfect scenario, trying to win a scenario without losing. So not necessarily breaking, but without losing a squad. Next to impossible, I think. It's like, it must be like the equivalent of a hole in one in golf. I'm not going to count the going to church scenario that you lost before the first turn. I think we have to count that you fire a shot at me at some point.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So this is the scenario where the victory conditions were: if there are no German units in the church, then the British have won, and I'd set up without any units in the church. I mean, to be fair, there's a genius there, isn't there?
I'm glad you hadn't driven a long way to come and see me, because for turnaround for that.
I think we played that by email.
We did. It was one of our very first games. Yeah, exactly. So easily.
And it gave me a wrong impression of play by email, that it was quite quick and easy and you could get the scenario over with no time.
Brilliant. Okay, all right. I think that's all we've got, really. We'd love to hear your bucket list items. Let us know if you've got some better ideas of stuff you'd like to achieve. What's your ASL goal? What's the thing that you're striving to do in game, outside of the game? I don't mind, whatever. But let's know about that. And if you've played this scenario, the kids these days, let us know how that's going. If you think it's impossible at this point, I think Chuck has definitely said it's definitely doable, and we've seen it can definitely be doable. You've got some decent stuff coming on, so we're gonna find out just how close you get. And I know you're not one for resigning early, Martin. You're a tough nut to break from your personal morale. It's pretty strong. So I'm definitely expecting a few lost tanks at some point. So
if for nothing else, I think the enjoyment of wrecking some Shermans, it's got to be worth playing on, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Right. Okay. I'm going to get ready for the tournament. I'm going to go to see my my daughter, who's now getting bored in hospital bed. So she's got to go and make sure she's at least got something to do, I suppose. So that's the key thing. So tournaments, and then that's it.
Yeah. I'm just going to say I've been doing some tabletop talks just explaining winter warfare rules, and there's one more to come, which is on how to do skiing and things like that. And there's going to be a fourth one, and the fourth one is going to be a mini scenario involving snow and skis. Not a real scenario, kind of, the tabletop talk kind of approach. Just a few counters thrown down just to kind of illustrate them. I think it might be quite
nice.
Might be quite interesting. So
Good.
keep your eyes peeled for that.
Looking forward to it. Okay. All right, Martin. Well, until then, we'll catch up. You're not obviously in Blackpool, but I will see you when we get back. And have a good time. And we'll see you all very soon.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.